Yeah, all right. So blues, shred. Two different groups of people merging together as one. Blues shred. Would that be bled? Anyways, let's do some stuff where we can incorporate some 3-note per string patterns along with some blues phrasing and have a smorgasbord of fun and activity. As always, click the links below. Go to Guitar Jams, check out the awesome theory lessons and different styles, and avail yourself of all the information Marty provides because it's awesome. I learn something every day. So anyways, let's get to this. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a pattern out of E major. So we're going to go 7, 9, and 11 for the A, D, and G strings. So we got. Again, we're going to hammer on all those notes. So I'll pick the first one. Hammer, hammer, pick, hammer, hammer, pick, hammer, hammer. Okay? And then the next two strings are going to have the same pattern as each other. So we're going to have 9, 10, and 12. All right, so the whole thing all together is. Now, one thing you can be aware of is as you're going down the strings and you're picking, bring your palm down to mute the strings out above the string that you're playing. So your hand would kind of be going like this. All right, little tip. So what we're going to do, once we get to the B string, we're actually going to change the pattern a little bit. So we're going to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hammer up just how I have been doing. So it's going to go 9, 10, 12. And then I'm going to pull off back to 10 from 12. Pull off 10 to 9. And then I'm going to hammer on and pull off. All right, so all together we're going to have. Now I'm going to do a sweep. Why? Because it's totally 80s and it's totally fun. So we got. So that sweep is going to be 11 on the G, 10 on the B, 9 on the E. So we're going to have. And then I'm going to hammer on those 3 notes. Right? You can skip this middle one if you don't want to and just. So it's choices up to you. A lot of times I'll often just skip that middle note. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide up to another position, up to the 16th fret, and then I'm going to do pull-offs out of that position. So we're going to go from 16, 14 to 12 on the E. And then I'm going to go to the string above it, the B string, and pull off from 15, 14 to 12. And then bend up. So we're going to have. So what you're doing there is you're basically staying in E major, but then I'm going to end this run in pentatonic. Now I wouldn't, an E minor pentatonic that is, and I wouldn't normally just do that. I would come out of it more like, or some sort of. Make a complete phrase out of it. Do the typical thing that I normally do, like I'd pull out that pull off. So I used that same pull-off exercise I did over here, but now I'm on the B string, so I'm going to go 15, 14, 12, and I'm going to hammer on from 12 back to 14, back to 12. Then I'm going to go up to 15 on the G, back to 12, and do that same little riff. So I'm actually doing that 3 different times. And then oftentimes, instead of bending up on that 14 like a lot of people do in the pentatonic, I pinched this from Eddie Van Halen. He bends this 12th and bends that down. So that's just one of the ways you can fuse scales, major and a major scale with a minor pentatonic scale, and mix up those notes and come up with some cool phrasing. Now what we can also do, a thing I learned doing a Dimebag or a Pantera song, and also some other Van Halen tunes, is you don't necessarily have to stick within the rigid confinements of a scale. Sometimes these guys will just blow down through notes, not conforming to any scale, but they know how to land on the right note. So, for instance, I forget what Pantera song it is, but in the Van Halen song, I'm the One, he has a particular riff that he does where the pattern's the same down every string. So that pattern would be 11, 12, 14 from the A all the way down to the E. Now he ends on that note, which brings him back into the key. Right? He mixes it up. But those notes wouldn't normally be associated with the scale, right? So you don't always have to stick in that, box. What you can do is you can break the rules a little bit. So those notes would work over a lot of these, because if you're fusing major and minor pentatonic together, well, your major pentatonic, that's your Skinner pentatonic right there, right? And then you fuse your Stevie Ray minor pentatonic together. If you fuse those two together, they meet right here at the 11th and 12th frets. So part of that would work. So I'm basically taking, on the A, D, and G strings, I'm taking notes that actually are in that scale if you fuse them together. Now where that pattern breaks is when you get to the B and the E strings. But we're going to come back into E, both major and minor, with this E note. So you can do a similar pattern to what we were doing. If you want, and just, fuse the pentatonic riffs back at the end. So what we just did there is we took a major and a minor pentatonic, fused them together, went down in a scale that basically didn't conform to anything, and got back into it with this E note. I went to minor, but I mixed some of those major notes in there so it didn't go to a completely minor sound. Went back and resolved to the other E right here on the G string, but did it in a total major pentatonic scale pattern. So those are different ways that you can combine the scales together to get a really unique, cool sound. You listen to a lot of the 80s guys do it, but I was learning some Pantera, and it really was cool to see how he did it as well, and it fit over a metal context, and also if your Van Halens and stuff like that, it fits over a rock, medium rock to hard rock format. But then you can also really come back to a pure blues sound by fusing in the pentatonic scale. So it's really making this hybrid soup of notes, but the point being that sometimes it's cool to break some rules and not just, go, oh, okay, I know my... Right? Even that riff right there, you're breaking out a little bit. You're learning how to use chromatic notes and introduce them into a scale. So even that shape right there, that's a chromatic, going up a semitone a piece, right? And using it in that box of the major, E major pentatonic right there. Same down here in the, if you want to make a minor scale position, so E minor pentatonic in this particular instance, have some major flavor to it, you can add the chromatic notes in there too. And that's cool too, because you can get those 3-note per string runs in there and kind of introduce some speed. See, I have a hard time. I can't do the Eric Johnson thing really well, where you just burn over 2-note per string pentatonics. Zach Wilde, some of these guys are just, Frank Marino, are just amazing at picking 2-note per string runs. I particularly have a harder time with it, so I'll fuse 3-note per string runs in there to get my speed licks in there. Now, if you want to just stick to a 2-note per string thing, what we can do is we can take one of those 3-note per string patterns, and we can take it out of the E major again, and we can start adding notes and then bringing it back into the pentatonic minor kind of sound, so we can... So what I did right there is it's just another exercise where you're going 12, 14, 16, and coming in there on the 15th fret of the B, and then the next time I'm going to go 12, 14, 17, coming back to the 15 on the B. So again, that's the first part of it. The second part sounds like this. I'm just doing hammer-ons and pull-offs. So work with that. Try some 3-note per string shred runs, a little sweep. That sweep totally works. Up in there as well. We'll do some future lessons, some more stuff on sweeping. But you can throw it in there without sounding totally 80s and totally dramatic and just, awesome Yngwie, which I cannot do any justice to because he's the man. But you can throw in quick little things that outline either a chord you're going by or whatever, and not sound too 80s or whatever, and just kind of use it as an exercise. So give it a shot. All right, catch you next time.